The badge tells you who I am, officer, but that silent camera is about to tell everyone who you are. Danielle Brooks spoke without raising her voice, yet every word cut through the steady rain falling over the gas station outside Richmond, Virginia. Red and blue lights rolled across the wet pavement, turning every puddle into a broken mirror. Her husband, Nathan, stood beside their black sport utility vehicle with his hands held behind him, his shoulders tense but controlled. He kept his eyes on Danielle, trusting the calm in her face even as the night around them became harder to understand. Officer Garrett Cole stood only a few feet away, holding an open leather credential wallet in one hand. The gold seal inside reflected the lights from his patrol car. Beneath it, the words Federal Bureau of Investigation remained clear, undeniable, and far more powerful than the confident assumptions he had carried into the stop. A few seconds earlier, Garrett had spoken as though every question Danielle asked was an act of defiance. Now he said nothing. The rain tapped against the roof of the vehicle. The fuel pumps hummed beneath the wide white canopy. Behind the glass doors of the convenience store, a young clerk held a phone at chest height, recording the silence that had suddenly replaced Garrett's authority. Danielle looked directly at the dark lens mounted on his chest. No red light. No recording indicator. Nothing. Garrett glanced toward Lieutenant Karen Walsh, who stood near the second patrol vehicle with a radio in her hand. Karen had arrived believing she was there to settle a difficult traffic stop. Instead, she was now staring at the identification of a supervisory special agent from the FBI Richmond field office. Officer Ethan Miller remained several steps behind them, his own body camera still recording. He looked from Garrett to Danielle, then toward Nathan, as though he were finally seeing the entire scene for what it was. Garrett cleared his throat. This can be explained. Danielle did not move. Water ran from the edge of her coat and traced a narrow line along the hood. Then start with why your camera was off. Garrett looked down at the device as if he had forgotten it was there. It malfunctioned. Before or after you decided my husband did not belong in his own vehicle? The question landed harder than any accusation because Danielle asked it without anger. She did not need anger. The evidence was already speaking. The dashboard camera inside the vehicle was recording. The gas station security system was recording. Ethan's camera was recording. Only Garrett's remained dark. Nathan turned his head slightly. Danielle, are you all right? I am fine, she answered, never taking her eyes off Garrett. This is bigger than us now. In the distance, two headlights appeared at the entrance to the station. Garrett looked toward them, then back at the badge in his hand. For the first time that night, fear replaced certainty on his face. But 25 minutes earlier, Garrett Cole had believed he was stopping an ordinary black couple on an empty road. He had no idea he was driving directly into the case that would expose him. 25 minutes earlier, Danielle Brooks had been smiling across a candlelit table while Nathan pretended not to notice that she had already guessed his surprise. The restaurant sat on a quiet corner near downtown Richmond, warm with amber lights, polished wood, and the low murmur of couples finishing dinner. Nathan had reserved the same table where they had celebrated their 5th anniversary, and Danielle recognized it the moment they were seated. You remembered, she said. Nathan lifted one shoulder. I remember the things that matter. 14 years of marriage had taught them how to read each other in silence. Danielle knew when Nathan was worried before he said a word. Nathan knew when she was still working even after she had put her phone away. That evening, he wanted 1 hour without case files, late calls, or the distant look that appeared whenever her work followed her home. Their son, Caleb, was spending the night with Danielle's mother, proudly insisting that 11 years old was old enough to manage without checking in every 30 minutes. Nathan disagreed. Danielle had already sent 3 messages. You are supposed to be off duty, he reminded her as dessert arrived. I am off duty. You checked the front entrance 6 times. 5. That does not help your argument. She laughed, and for a few minutes the weight she carried seemed to lift. When they stepped outside, a light rain had begun to settle over the city, softening the streetlights and turning the sidewalk silver. Nathan opened the passenger door of their black sport utility vehicle while Danielle adjusted her coat. Before getting inside, she removed the leather credential wallet clipped near her waist and placed it deep inside the inner pocket. Nathan noticed. Leaving the agent behind tonight. For one night, she said, I do not want to be an agent. I just want to go home with my husband. He smiled. That sounds like a very good assignment. They pulled away from the restaurant with the heater running low and an old soul song playing through the speakers. Nathan talked about Caleb's science project, a cardboard model of the solar system that had somehow taken over half the dining room. Danielle listened, watching rain gather across the windshield in long trembling lines. For the first mile, the night felt ordinary. Then a patrol car appeared behind them. It followed through one intersection, then another. Nathan checked the rearview mirror without turning his head. Has that cruiser been there since the restaurant? Danielle looked toward the side mirror. Since the second light. Nathan kept both hands relaxed on the wheel. He was driving 3 miles below the speed limit. He signaled before changing lanes. The cruiser changed lanes with him. He stopped fully at a red light. The cruiser stopped 1 car length behind. Maybe he is heading the same way, Nathan said. Danielle wanted to believe that. She watched the patrol car remain behind them through another turn. No siren. No flashing lights. Just a steady presence, close enough to feel. Nathan exhaled slowly. Registration is current. Insurance is in the glove compartment. I know. I have not done anything wrong. Danielle looked at him, hearing what he had not said. That fact should have been enough. Too often, it was not. They passed a brightly lit gas station near the highway. Seconds later, red and blue lights flooded the mirrors. Nathan tightened his grip on the wheel but kept his voice controlled. I am pulling into the station. Good, Danielle said. Keep your hands visible. Tell him before you reach for anything. Nathan guided the vehicle beneath the white canopy and brought it to a complete stop. The patrol car stopped behind them. Through the rain, Officer Garrett Cole remained inside for several long seconds, studying the black couple ahead of him as though he had already decided what kind of story he expected to find. Garrett Cole remained inside the patrol car long enough for the silence to become its own kind of pressure. Nathan kept both hands at the top of the steering wheel, fingers spread and visible. Danielle rested her hands on her lap and watched the cruiser through the passenger side mirror. At last, the driver door opened. Garrett stepped into the rain, adjusted the front of his uniform, and approached with a flashlight raised before he reached the window. He did not offer a greeting. He did not identify himself. The beam moved across Nathan's face, over Danielle's coat, and into the back seat where Caleb's science project supplies were still scattered inside a paper bag. How did you get this vehicle? Garrett asked. Nathan looked at him through the partially lowered window. I purchased it, officer. Garrett moved the light across the dashboard and the leather seats. Is it registered to you? Yes. License and registration. Nathan kept his voice calm. My license is in my wallet, inside my right jacket pocket. The registration is in the glove compartment. May I reach for them? Garrett stared at him for a moment. Slowly. Nathan announced each movement before making it. Danielle noticed the dark body camera mounted on Garrett's chest. There was no recording light. She also noticed what he had not said. No reason for the stop. No mention of speeding. No broken light. No traffic violation at all. Garrett studied Nathan's license, then looked at his face as though the photograph had created another problem instead of answering one. Where are you coming from? Dinner in Richmond. Where are you going? Home. Garrett shifted the flashlight toward Danielle. And you? We left the restaurant about 10 minutes ago, she said. His expression changed immediately. That is not what he said. Nathan frowned. Yes, it is. Garrett pointed the flashlight back at him. I did not ask you to speak. The warmth inside the vehicle seemed to disappear. Danielle watched Nathan draw a slow breath and release it through his nose. He had spent years keeping patients calm before surgery, but now he was being forced to measure every word as if the wrong answer could change the meaning of the night. Garrett looked again at the vehicle. What do you do for work? I am an anesthesiologist. A faint smile touched Garrett's mouth, but there was no humor in it. Of course you are. Danielle lifted her eyes to the camera on his chest. Officer Cole, is your body camera recording? He turned toward her. I am conducting a traffic stop. Then the camera should be active. Garrett's jaw tightened. You can let me worry about procedure. You have not explained the reason for the stop. The rain tapped against the roof in a steady rhythm. Behind the convenience store glass, the clerk looked up from the register and began watching. Garrett handed Nathan's license back but kept the registration. Turn off the engine. Nathan obeyed. The music stopped. The dashboard lights dimmed. Garrett stepped away from the window and pointed toward the driver door. Step out of the vehicle. Nathan looked at Danielle for only a second. She gave him a small nod, calm on the outside, alert to every detail. Garrett had not found a violation. He had found questions, and he was determined to turn them into guilt. Nathan moved slowly, keeping both hands visible as he opened the driver door and stepped onto the wet pavement. I am getting out now, he said, making every movement deliberate. Garrett pointed toward the front of the sport utility vehicle. Stand by the hood. Nathan complied without argument. Danielle remained in the passenger seat, watching through the open door as rain darkened the shoulders of her husband's jacket. Garrett positioned himself between Nathan and the vehicle, still holding the registration. Where were you before the restaurant? He asked. At St. Matthew's Hospital. What time did you leave? A little after 7. Garrett glanced toward Danielle. Was she with you? She met me at the restaurant. Garrett gave a slow nod, as though Nathan had confirmed something suspicious. So now the story changes. Nathan kept his voice level. Nothing changed. You asked where I was before dinner. Do not tell me what I asked. Danielle leaned slightly toward the open door. Their answers are consistent, officer. Garrett turned toward her. Stay inside the vehicle. I am inside the vehicle. Then stop interfering. The clerk behind the convenience store window looked toward them again. This time, she reached for her phone. Garrett faced Nathan. Is there anything in the vehicle I should know about? No weapons, drugs, stolen property. No, then you will not mind if I search it. Nathan took a slow breath. I do not consent to a search. The words were polite, clear, and legally ordinary, but Garrett reacted as if Nathan had challenged his authority in front of an audience. Why are you making this difficult? I have answered every question and followed every instruction. You are being evasive. I told you where we came from, where we are going, and where I work. Garrett stepped closer. Turn around and place your hands behind your back. Danielle felt the atmosphere change. What is the basis for detaining him? She asked. Garrett ignored her. Nathan turned around slowly. Danielle, stay calm. I am calm, she answered, although every instinct told her the stop was moving beyond procedure and into something more dangerous. Garrett secured Nathan's hands behind him without identifying a crime or explaining the purpose of the detention. Nathan did not resist. He stood quietly beneath the rain, his expression controlled, his dignity intact even as Garrett treated cooperation like evidence against him. Danielle opened the passenger door and stepped out with both hands visible. Garrett immediately pointed toward her. Get back inside. My husband is being detained without an explanation, your camera is inactive, and you still have not stated why you stopped us. You think knowing a few legal phrases gives you control here? No, Danielle said. I think procedure protects everyone, including you. Garrett's face tightened. You do not give orders at my scene. Then I am formally requesting your supervisor. For a moment, only the rain answered. Garrett reached toward his radio, but headlights turned into the station before he could speak. A second patrol car approached beneath the bright canopy and stopped several yards away. Officer Ethan Miller stepped out, already recording. His eyes moved from Nathan's restrained hands to Danielle's composed face, then finally to the dark camera on Garrett's chest. He had arrived expecting routine backup. Instead, he had entered a moment that would force him to decide whether loyalty meant protecting another officer or protecting the truth. Officer Ethan Miller closed the patrol car door and approached with the careful expression of a man trying to understand a scene before choosing a side. He was 27, still young enough to notice details that older officers often dismissed, and the first detail he saw was Nathan standing beside the hood with his hand secured behind him. The second was Danielle, calm but watchful, rain gathering along the sleeves of her coat. The third was Garrett Cole's body camera. It was dark. Ethan stopped several feet away. What happened? Garrett answered before anyone else could speak. Possible stolen vehicle. Driver gave inconsistent statements, refused a search, and became uncooperative. Passenger has been interfering from the beginning. Ethan looked toward the license plate, then at the registration still in Garrett's hand. Did dispatch report it stolen? I am waiting on confirmation. Danielle studied Ethan's uniform. His camera showed a steady red light. Above the fuel pumps, a security camera faced the parking area. Behind the convenience store glass, the clerk had raised her phone and was recording. Inside Danielle and Nathan's vehicle, the dashboard camera continued to preserve every word. 3 cameras were watching. Only Garrett's was silent. Ethan stepped closer to Nathan. Sir, are the handcuffs too tight? Nathan answered evenly. They are uncomfortable, but I am not resisting. Ethan looked at Garrett again. What was the original traffic violation? Garrett's expression hardened. Suspicious driving. What kind of suspicious driving? He changed lanes after I changed lanes. Ethan glanced toward the highway. Did he speed, cross a line, or miss a signal? Garrett stepped closer to him. I asked you here for backup, not an interview. The warning in his voice was quiet, but everyone heard it. Danielle saw Ethan lower his eyes for half a second. Fear did not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looked like a young officer calculating the cost of one honest sentence. Officer Miller, Danielle said, was Officer Cole's camera already inactive when you arrived? Ethan looked at her, then at the device on Garrett's chest. I just got here. That was not my question. Garrett moved between them. She does not control this scene. Danielle kept her hands visible. No. The evidence does. Garrett turned toward Ethan. Step over here. I need to brief you before your recording becomes part of the report. Ethan did not move immediately. His camera continued blinking red. The clerk behind the window held her phone steady. Rain whispered across the canopy, filling the space where an answer should have been. Danielle's phone vibrated inside her coat. Once. Then again. The screen glowed faintly through the fabric with the name Robert Hayes. She did not reach for it. Instead, she pressed her elbow gently against the side of her coat, holding it there for 3 seconds. A silent emergency alert traveled from her phone, sending her location and live audio to the secure contact assigned to her account. Garrett noticed the movement. Keep your hands where I can see them. They are where you can see them, Danielle said. Ethan looked at Garrett's dark camera one more time. Officer Cole, he said carefully, why is your camera off? The question changed the air. Garrett stared at him, no longer seeing a partner, but a problem. Before he could answer, another set of headlights appeared at the entrance to the station. A dark department vehicle turned beneath the canopy. Lieutenant Karen Walsh had arrived, and Garrett's confidence returned before she even stepped out. Lieutenant Karen Walsh stepped from the department vehicle with the practiced impatience of someone who expected the situation to become simple the moment she arrived. She was 50, composed, and known throughout the precinct for protecting the reputation of her unit with the same determination others used to protect the public. Garrett moved toward her before Ethan could speak. "Possible stolen vehicle," he said. The driver gave conflicting answers, refused a lawful search, and became uncooperative. The passenger has been interfering and challenging every instruction. Karen looked at Nathan, then at Danielle, but she did not ask either of them for their account. Her eyes moved briefly to Ethan's active camera, then to Garrett's silent one. Something passed across her face. Recognition, perhaps. Or familiarity. It disappeared almost immediately. "Has dispatch confirmed the vehicle is stolen?" she asked. "Not yet," Garrett replied. "But the circumstances support further investigation." Nathan stood beneath the rain, his hands still secured behind him. "Lieutenant, the registration matches my license." "I answered every question Officer Cole asked." Karen raised one hand without looking at him. "Sir, I will speak with you when I am ready." Danielle felt the meaning of that sentence settle over the parking lot. Karen had arrived as a supervisor, but she was already treating Garrett's version as fact and everyone else's words as interruption. "Lieutenant Walsh," Danielle said, "your officer has not identified a traffic violation. His body camera is inactive, and he detained my husband after we declined a search." Karen turned toward her. "You need to stop interfering with an active investigation. Requesting an explanation is not interference. It becomes interference when you continue after being instructed to stop." Behind the glass doors, the clerk kept recording. Ethan remained near his patrol car, saying nothing. Danielle could see the conflict in his expression, the painful distance between what he had witnessed and what he was willing to admit. Garrett stepped closer to Karen and lowered his voice, though not enough to keep the others from hearing. "She keeps quoting procedure like she thinks she is an attorney." Karen looked at Danielle's coat, her calm posture, and the foam glowing faintly inside the fabric. "Place your belongings on the hood," she ordered. "My phone and identification are inside my coat," Danielle said. "Then remove them slowly." Garrett gave a small smile. The arrival of his lieutenant had restored the confidence Ethan's question had shaken. He leaned closer to Danielle. "No speech is going to change what happens here." Nathan looked toward his wife. "Danielle, do exactly what they say." She met his eyes and gave a slight nod. Her emergency signal had already been sent. Robert Hayes now had her location and the live audio from the scene. She did not know how far away he was, but she knew the truth was no longer trapped beneath the gas station canopy. Danielle turned back to Karen. "Before I move my hands, I need everyone here to understand what I am about to do." Garrett sighed. "Here we go again." Danielle ignored him. "My federal credentials are inside the inner pocket of my coat. I will retrieve them slowly, using my left hand, only after you give me permission." Silence spread across the parking lot. Karen's eyes narrowed. Garrett laughed once, but the sound lacked certainty. "Federal credentials?" he asked. "You expect us to believe that?" Danielle looked directly at him. "I am a supervisory special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation." Garrett's smile returned, wider now, as though her statement had finally given him the excuse he wanted. "Then prove it." Danielle held Garrett's gaze for one measured second, then turned toward Karen. "Lieutenant, do I have permission to retrieve the credential wallet from the inner left pocket of my coat?" Karen hesitated. The rain moved softly across the canopy, and the red light on Ethan's camera continued to blink. "Use your left hand," Karen said. "Move slowly." Danielle lifted her left hand, opened the edge of her coat, and reached into the pocket exactly as she had described. Nathan watched without moving. Garrett stood close enough to see every motion, his expression caught between disbelief and satisfaction, as though he expected her to produce something that would justify everything he had already done. Danielle removed a dark leather wallet and held it between two fingers. I am going to open it. Garrett gave a dismissive breath. Just do it. Danielle unfolded the wallet. The gold seal caught the patrol lights first. Then the identification card became visible beneath it. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Supervisory Special Agent Danielle Brooks. FBI Richmond Field Office. Garrett's expression changed so quickly that Ethan looked away from the badge and toward him instead. The certainty disappeared. The small smile vanished. Even his posture seemed to lose the authority it had borrowed from the uniform. Karen stepped closer, studying the credentials without touching them. Keep it open, she said. Danielle did. Garrett recovered enough to speak. Anyone can buy something that looks official. Danielle looked directly at him. Then verify it through the FBI Richmond duty desk using your department's official directory. Karen reached for her radio and requested that dispatch contact the field office through a verified number. Garrett shifted his attention toward Nathan. We can remove the handcuffs while this gets sorted out. Danielle's voice stopped him. No. Do not call this courtesy now. State clearly that there was no confirmed stolen vehicle and no identified traffic violation. Garrett looked at Karen as though waiting for protection. She did not answer him. Ethan stepped forward. Dispatch already confirmed the registration belongs to Nathan Brooks, he said. There is no stolen vehicle report. Nathan closed his eyes for a brief moment, not from relief, but from the weight of hearing a fact that should have ended the stop before it began. Karen removed the key from her belt and released his hands. Nathan brought them forward slowly, then moved beside Danielle. He did not speak. He did not need to. The dispatcher's voice returned through Karen's radio several minutes later. Identity confirmed. Supervisory Special Agent Danielle Brooks, FBI Richmond Field Office. The word settled over the station like a final ruling. Garrett looked at Danielle. This was a misunderstanding. No, she said. A misunderstanding happens when facts are unclear. You ignored every fact that did not support what you had already decided. Garrett lowered his voice. I had no way of knowing who you were. Danielle closed the credential wallet. That is exactly the problem. You believe my position changes what you were permitted to do. Behind the glass, the clerk kept recording. Ethan's camera remained active. The dashboard camera inside the vehicle preserved every word. Karen stared at Garrett's silent body camera as if she were seeing it for the first time. Then headlights appeared at the entrance to the station. A dark sedan turned beneath the canopy, followed by a second vehicle several seconds later. Garrett looked toward them, and Danielle's phone vibrated once inside her coat. Robert Hayes had received the signal. The badge had revealed who Danielle was. What arrived next would reveal why Garrett Cole already knew her name from a case file he had never been meant to see. The dark sedan stopped beneath the canopy, and Special Agent Robert Hayes stepped out with another federal agent beside him. He wore no expression of surprise. Danielle's emergency alert had already sent her location, live audio, and the time the stop began. By the time he crossed the wet pavement, he knew enough to understand that this was no longer a routine traffic matter. Danielle, he said, his eyes moving from her credential wallet to Nathan, then to Garrett's inactive camera. Are you both safe? We are, she answered. Preserve the scene. Robert nodded and turned toward Karen. Lieutenant Walsh, I am issuing a formal request that all body camera footage, dispatch audio, vehicle data, written notes, and surveillance recordings connected to this stop be preserved immediately. Nothing is to be altered, deleted, or overwritten. Karen straightened. This department can handle its own internal review. This is not only an internal matter, Robert said. His tone remained calm, but the meaning was unmistakable. The FBI Richmond Field Office has been examining a pattern of traffic stops in this patrol area for the past 8 months. Garrett stared at him. What pattern? Robert opened a thin folder but did not hand it over. Black drivers followed without a documented violation. Body cameras inactive at the beginning of the stop. Ordinary answers described as inconsistent. Requests to search made without clear cause. Reports rewritten afterward to justify the detention. Rain whispered against the metal canopy. Danielle watched Garrett's face as each detail reached him. The confidence did not disappear all at once. It broke apart slowly, replaced by the realization that tonight's stop was not standing alone. "My name is in your file," Garrett said. It was not a question. Danielle answered. "Your name appears in 13 complaints with the same sequence." Karen looked sharply toward him. Robert continued. 10 of those complaints were closed after supervisory review. His eyes moved to Karen. "Your signature appears on every closure." Karen's expression hardened. Those cases lacked evidence. Danielle looked toward the cameras surrounding them. Because the recordings were missing. Ethan remained near his patrol car, his face pale beneath the station lights. Robert turned toward him. "Officer Miller, your body camera is active. I need you to preserve that recording and provide a formal statement through the proper process." Ethan looked at Garrett. Garrett's stare carried a warning shaped by years of rank, reputation, and silence. "Think carefully," Garrett said. Ethan took one slow breath. "I am." He looked at Robert. "Officer Cole told me he needed to brief me before my recording became part of the report. He wanted me away from the scene while his camera was off." Karen stepped toward him. "That is not what he meant." Ethan did not look away. "I know what I heard." Then he reached into his patrol car and removed a small notebook. "I kept dates and report numbers from other stops. Some drafts changed before they were filed. I did not know who to trust." Garrett shook his head. "You are destroying your career over a misunderstanding." Ethan closed the notebook. "No. I almost destroyed it by staying quiet." Robert instructed the second agent to record the names of every witness and coordinate with the department's evidence unit. No one seized a camera. No one raised a voice. The truth did not need drama now. It needed preservation. Garrett turned toward Danielle. "You set this up." She stepped closer to Nathan, their shoulders nearly touching. "You followed us. You stopped us. You kept your camera off. You ignored the registration. You created every part of this yourself." Garrett looked around at the active cameras, the witnesses, the federal agents, and the young officer who had finally chosen honesty. The system he trusted to erase the pattern was now documenting it. Danielle closed her credential wallet and placed it inside her coat. "My badge did not build this case," she said. "Your choices did." 9 months later, the rain had long disappeared from the Richmond streets, but the night at the gas station remained alive in every reopened file, every recorded statement, and every family finally invited to speak without being dismissed. Garrett Cole no longer wore a badge. The investigation found a repeated pattern across 13 traffic stops, each one built from the same quiet sequence of suspicion, missing camera footage, altered language, and assumptions treated as evidence. Lieutenant Karen Walsh was removed from command after investigators confirmed that she had signed 10 internal findings without fully reviewing the available records. Several cases were reopened, and drivers who had once been told there was not enough proof were asked to return, this time to people required to listen. Ethan Miller became a central witness. His body camera footage, personal notes, and formal testimony connected the hidden pattern from one stop to the next. Speaking honestly cost him friendships inside the department, but silence had already cost him more than he was willing to lose. New body camera rules were adopted across the unit. Officers were required to activate recordings before approaching a vehicle, supervisors had to document every failure, and deleted or missing footage triggered an automatic review. Nathan returned to his work at St. Matthew's Hospital, where he continued guiding patients through the most uncertain moments of their lives. Yet some evenings, when headlights remained behind him for too many turns, his hands tightened around the steering wheel before he could stop them. Danielle noticed. She never told him to forget. Healing did not mean pretending the fear had never entered the car. It meant refusing to let that fear choose every road afterward. On a clear autumn evening, Danielle stood before a community hearing inside Richmond City Hall. Nathan sat in the front row beside Caleb, who was now 12 and old enough to understand why his parents had stopped answering when people called the traffic stop a simple misunderstanding. Behind them sat families connected to the reopened cases. Some held photographs. Others carried folders thick with reports. All of them carried stories that had survived being ignored. Danielle placed her closed credential wallet on the table. "My badge forced people to verify who I was," she said. "But it did not make my husband truthful. It did not make our vehicle ours. It did not make our dignity real. Those things were already true before anyone saw it." The room became silent. The danger was never only one officer making one bad decision. The danger was a system that accepted missing cameras, rewritten reports, and repeated complaints as normal. After the hearing, Danielle and Nathan walked together beneath the warm streetlights. Caleb had already left with Danielle's mother, and the city around them felt quieter than it had in months. Nathan looked at the credential wallet in her hand. "What do you think would have happened if you had not been carrying that?" Danielle stopped beside their vehicle and looked down at the gold seal. For a moment, she saw the gas station again, the rain, the dark camera, and Garrett's certainty before the truth interrupted him. "What happened to everyone they believed no one would listen to?" she said. She closed the wallet and placed it inside her bag. Nathan nodded, not because the answer brought comfort, but because it carried responsibility. The badge had not given Danielle dignity. It had only exposed the people who refused to see it.